Think about the time you were most encouraged in your life, or even just recently. That's what's on my mind today. Hi, I'm Chuck. I'm an educator, public school educator with a new job this year and a new commute. And this podcast is me figuring out what to do with that extra time in the car. This is my drive time diary. And this morning, I'm reflecting on encouragement, coaching, that sort of thing. If you think about, professional sports leagues, and I think maybe college sports leagues do this also, in NCAA, they give out a Coach of the Year award to, I think it's chosen by other coaches, but it goes to the coach who did the best job coaching the team up that year, given who they were, what talent they had. It doesn't, sometimes it goes to the team with the best record, but I'd say usually it doesn't. It goes to the team that did really well, that also had the most diversity. Diversity? Is that the right word? Adversity. The team that had the most adversity thrown at them. Injuries, weird things that happen in their schedule, hardest schedule maybe. Going from awful record the year before to a much better record, that kind of thing. So those coaching seasons, those coaching performances that other coaches highlight and award and recognize as the best coaching, those always come at the most difficult times. When you think about the time you were most encouraged, or the most encouraging thing someone said to you, that probably came, I'm guessing, at a time when you were at your lowest. When I think about encouraging things people have done for me, that always came when I was at my lowest. It didn't come when I was already having a great day and then someone just added a cherry on top of it. Those days are very nice, don't get me wrong, but those aren't life-changing, encouraging, coaching kind of situations. Those always come when we're in the pit, when we're at our lowest. And so I was reflecting on that this morning also when I was reading in the book of Jeremiah in my Bible. There are, if you're familiar with Bible verses or Christian culture, maybe you've heard these, one of the most quoted verses at a pro-life rally, or an anti-abortion rally, however you would want to say that, comes from the first chapter of this book. It's verse 5, and it is something Jeremiah the prophet wrote down that he had heard from God. And it says that before you were formed in the womb, I knew you. And that is a verse that pro-life advocates will use just to say, from the biblical worldview, that God knows us from the moment of conception. And this is not a pro-life podcast episode necessarily, but that is my stance if you're curious. But this is just this verse. I knew you before you were formed even in the womb. That's one of the most quoted verses that I remember from this book. Another popular one, this is a graduation verse a lot. This comes from chapter 29, verse 11. And it says, "For I know the plans I have for you." And they go on into verse 12, I think. Plans to prosper you, plans to help you, set you up. That's the bigger paraphrase there. So a lot of times this is a verse people put on their Instagram profiles. It's a verse that people will get tattoos of a lot. They'll get art that they put in their houses. Jeremiah 29, I know the plans I have for you. There were people that I knew in high school that were mostly spiritual that knew this verse because people had spoken it to them. And they hung on to that also. Like, famous things they put in there. That's like they wrote in the yearbook, that kind of thing. And people love it. It's great. It is very encouraging to know when you are lost and when you feel directionless that God orders your steps, or He ordains the places you go. That's incredibly encouraging. When I'm in a situation where I feel alone and wonder if I've made a right choice, no matter what it is, if I can go at the end of the day and know that I believe that God has had a hand in placing me there, and that He didn't mess up in putting me there, that is super encouraging. And if I'm wondering about a next step, knowing that I'm not alone in that decision, that's also encouraging. But here's the point I want to make about these verses. If you read the entire book of Jeremiah, which is one of the bigger ones in the Judeo-Christian scriptures, this book is not chock full of encouragement. It's not quite as bad as what was I thinking of? It's not like Lamentations. It's not as full of sadness, but it's kind of close. It's up there. So this is not chock full of encouragement. Most of the verse is things that Jeremiah has written down that God has for him to share with the Hebrews, the Jews, before they are about to be exiled to Babylon, or while they are in exile, which it was an incredibly sad time and frustrating and hard time for those people in history. And it was a really hard time in Jeremiah's life. Parts of the book kind of give the narrative account of this also, just that no one liked him and he was hated by like all these people, and he was not like, if we think of him as like a preacher or a motivational speaker, he was not going viral on his TED Talks or going viral on YouTube for his videos because they were so loved. He was reviled because he kept preaching about all these bad things that were going to happen because the people were not following God's will for them. And so that was a hard time for him also. And so the people were feeling discouraged. Jeremiah himself was feeling discouraged. And then in the midst of this, we have these deeply encouraging verses that people go back to. And so the point I just want to make is that when we are in our darkest valley, our darkest times, our deepest valleys, that is when we can also feel most encouraged. And so if that's that time for you, just know that that season, that moment also has its place also, and that there is encouragement for you in God's plan for you, and knowing that He has steps for you. And in those hardest, adverse times is when that encouragement shines the most. So the end of the drive is here. I'm sitting in the parking lot now. My coworkers are probably looking at me, talking to my phone. So this episode is over. Thanks for coming on today's drive. We'll see you on the next one.